At 6 in the morning, my mother-in-law's furious screams woke up the entire building. She had just discovered that I changed the lock on my own apartment. "Have you completely lost your mind?" my husband yelled. Calmly, I handed him an envelope. When he opened it, "Before we continue, don't forget to write in the comments which country you're from and how old you are. Enjoy listening." The scream at 6:03 a.m. was not just a sound, it was a detonation. It cracked the morning open like an egg, yolk of rage spilling through the vents, the floorboards, the thin plaster walls that separated us from the other 6 units on the 3rd floor. The neighbor's baby in 3C let out a startled wail that synced perfectly with the second scream. Mrs. Kowalski's terrier in 3A answered with a staccato yip 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 that ricocheted down the hallway like buckshot. Someone on the 2nd floor slammed a window so hard the glass rattled in its frame. A muffled voice shouted, "For the love of... shut up!" I sat frozen at the kitchen table, spine straight, palms pressed flat against the scarred oak surface, as if I could anchor the entire building with my own body. The envelope waited in front of me, centered with the precision of a crime scene marker. White, unmarked, sealed with a single strip of clear tape that caught the weak fluorescent light and threw it back like a dare. My coffee had gone cold exactly 47 minutes earlier. I had counted every tick of the second hand on the cheap wall clock Daniel had bought at a yard sale in Queens, the one with the cracked plastic face and the minute hand that always lagged 3 seconds behind. "Maya Patel Harper, you open this door right now, or I swear..." The threat dissolved into another kick. The door frame shuddered. Dust sifted from the ceiling like gray snow. I pictured Evelyn's beige orthopedic loafers, spotless, sensible, the ones she wore to pop by at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday because I was in the neighborhood, leaving crescent scuffs on our freshly painted sage green door. The old lock, the one she had duplicated without asking the week we moved in. "For emergencies, darling, you never know," lay gutted inside a sandwich bag on the counter. Brass pins scattered like the teeth of a child after a playground brawl. Daniel erupted from the bedroom in fragments. First the creak of the mattress springs, then the slap of one bare foot, then the other, then the rustle of the inside-out t-shirt he'd fallen asleep in. He skidded into the hallway, one gray sock sliding on the hardwood, hair a dark storm cloud around his head. The morning light cut through the blinds in dusty gold bars, striping his face so that one eye looked shadowed, the other wide and startled. What in the actual... Another scream, closer now, accompanied by the frantic jangle of keys. Her keys. The spare set she'd had made at the hardware store on 74th Street. The one with the little enamel heart charm she'd added, "So I'll always know it's for my baby boy." The charm clinked against the metal like a tiny mocking bell. "Daniel, your wife has lost her ever-loving mind. She changed my lock on my son's apartment." Daniel's hand froze on the new deadbolt, fingers splayed against the cold steel. He turned to me, mouth half open, the word "Mom" caught in his throat like a fishbone. I didn't speak. I simply nudged the envelope forward. It slid across the table with a soft, deliberate rasp, stopping exactly where his fingertips would land if he reached out. The pounding paused. A key scraped. Once, twice, 3 times, 4. each attempt more violent than the last, the metal screeching against the new tumblers like fingernails on a chalkboard. Then silence, the kind that presses against your eardrums until they ring. Daniel stared at the envelope as if it might sprout fangs. Maya, talk to me. Please. Open it, I said. My voice didn't shake. I had practiced this line in the mirror at 3:17 a.m. for 21 nights straight, until the words felt like armor forged in the dark. He tore the seal with his thumb. The sound was sharp, like ripping a bandage off a wound that had never quite healed. Inside, a photograph, edges yellowed and curled from years in a forgotten drawer, and a single sheet of paper folded into perfect, ruthless thirds. The photo first. He lifted it carefully, as though it were radioactive. The image was slightly out of focus, taken with a disposable Kodak in a hospital corridor that smelled of bleach, burnt coffee, and despair. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a sickly green pallor over everything. A woman in a navy blazer, Evelyn, 38 years old, hair in a French twist sharp enough to cut glass, stood with arms crossed, lips thin as paper cuts, eyes narrowed at a teenage boy on a gurney. The boy's left eye was swollen shut, purple-black and glistening with tears or antiseptic. His lip was split. A thin line of blood traced his chin like a red thread. A nurse hovered in the background, clipboard clutched to her chest like a shield, her face blurred as if she'd turned away at the last second. The boy was Daniel, 16. The date stamped in the corner in faded red ink. March 14th, 2011. Daniel's thumb brushed the bruise on his younger self's cheek, a gesture so gentle it broke something open in my chest. I thought this was destroyed. She said the hospital shredded the file after the settlement. She said, "Keep reading," I said. He unfolded the paper. The email header was crisp, black on white, the font unforgiving. From Evelyn Harper. To Dr. Marcus Lynn. CC. Legal Team. Harper Family Trust. Subject: Urgent. Ex parte temporary protective order against Maya Patel. Harper. Date: October 8th, 2025, 9:47 p.m. Dr. Lynn. Per our 47-minute phone consultation, recording available upon request, Maya Patel Harper's behavior has escalated to dangerous levels. Specific incidents include: 1. Systematic isolation of Daniel from all family contact. See attached call logs. 0 incoming calls from me in 42 days. 0 outgoing from Daniel in 38 days. 2. Unauthorized restriction of access to Daniel's complete medical history. I have been his health proxy since 2009. See attached POA. 3. Refusal of entry to their residence despite my legal key and long-standing role as emotional support. See attached lease addendum signed by Daniel in 2022, granting me unrestricted access for wellness checks. Attached: Daniel's sealed juvenile psychiatric records, ages 14 to 17. Note recurring diagnoses of boundary violations, manipulative attachment disorder, and oppositional defiance triggered by stress. Character affidavits from 3 family friends, prepared and notarized. Forged financial statements showing Maya's secret gambling debt, totaling $18,417.62. Detailed breakdown attached. Screenshots of Maya's erratic social media posts, curated for maximum impact. Maya matches the profile of a coercive controller with narcissistic tendencies. She is a danger to Daniel and potentially to herself. File the 72-hour involuntary hold. Today, I will cover all expedited fees, court costs, and provide in-person testimony if required. Thank you, Evelyn Harper. P.S. I have retained counsel to pursue emergency guardianship of any future dependents should the need arise. Daniel's hands shook so violently the paper fluttered like a trapped moth. She was going to have you involuntarily committed to a psych ward with my juvenile records? I nodded once. She booked the consultation 2 weeks ago, paid the $3,500 retainer in cash, withdrew it from the joint account she still has access to because you never removed her as a signer. No digital trail. The lock change forced her to act in daylight, on camera. I tilted my head toward the ceiling corner where a tiny black dome blinked red every 3 seconds. A 4K security camera with night vision, motion detection, and cloud backup to a server in Iceland, installed by Leo Park, my old photojournalist colleague who now freelanced in private surveillance. Daniel followed my gaze, then looked back at the email. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. No words came. The doorbell erupted. 3 sharp buzzes that made the overhead light fixture tremble like it might unscrew itself and crash to the floor. Evelyn's voice returned, syrupy now, the tone she used with landlords, doormen, and judges. Daniel, sweetheart, Mommy just wants to talk. Open up before this gets embarrassing. Daniel started toward the door. I caught his wrist, gently, but firm enough that he stopped. There's more. Sit. I stood and crossed to the hallway closet. The top shelf was just high enough that I had to stand on tiptoe, the hem of Daniel's old Columbia hoodie riding up to reveal the faint silver stretch marks I'd earned from stress eating ice cream at 2 a.m. My fingers closed around the handle of a matte black fireproof lockbox, the kind realtors use for vacant listings, the kind that can survive a house fire and a nosy mother-in-law. The combination was 0818, our wedding date. Evelyn had rolled her eyes when I'd programmed it in front of her. So sentimental, Maya. Locks are for strangers, not family. I set the box on the coffee table with a soft thud that sounded final. Inside, 3 color-coded folders, a USB drive in a hard plastic case, a 1 TB external hard drive wrapped in an anti-static bag, and a small velvet pouch containing something that glinted when the light hit it. Folder 1. Financial Forgeries. Bank statements from the past 12 months, printed on heavy cream paper from the branch on 82nd Street. Every legitimate transaction highlighted in neon green. Anomalies in red. $800 at Lucky Dragon Casino, Atlantic City. 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday when Daniel was on a 12-hour ER shift and I was home editing a freelance article. $200 cash withdrawal from a Newark ATM at 2:14 a.m. Time-stamped security footage showed a woman in a blonde wig and oversized sunglasses. $4,500 transferred to an account ending in 7721, registered to Harper Family Holdings LLC, a shell company incorporated in Delaware 3 days after our wedding. I had the originals from the bank, time-stamped before. Evelyn swapped them out using a PDF editor and a crooked accountant she'd met at her country club's Ladies Who Lunch bridge tournament. Folder 2. Digital Surveillance. Screenshots of text threads between Evelyn and a burner number saved as Tech Guru. Instructions on cloning my iPhone via iCloud. Step-by-step guide attached. Installing a keylogger on our shared MacBook. Software link included. Generating deepfake audio of me screaming at a fictional ex-boyfriend named Javier. Sample file, Maya Rage 03. WAV. In the audio, I threatened to burn the house down with him in it. One message read, "Make her sound hysterical. Juries love crazy. Add sobbing at the end." Folder 3. Medical Sabotage. My own records, doctored with surgical precision. A forged prescription for Seroquel 200 mg, dated September 12, 2025, signed by a Dr. Elena Vasquez, who had retired in 2022. A therapist's note claiming I'd missed 3 sessions for court-mandated anger management after an incident at a grocery store. No police report existed. A referral to the West Side Fertility Clinic with a sticky note in Evelyn's looping cursive. Trap him with a baby before he wakes up. I'll pay for the IVF if needed. Daniel's voice cracked like thin ice. She faked a pregnancy scare? Our pregnancy? She faked everything. I opened the velvet pouch and tipped its contents into my palm. My grandmother's gold bracelet, the one with the tiny elephant charm that had survived partition, immigration, and 3 generations of women who refused to be broken. The clasp was bent. Evelyn had pried it open to remove it from my jewelry box. I handed Daniel the USB drive. Watch. All of it. He plugged it into the TV. The screen bloomed to life. A menu. Evidence. Do not delete. Password protected. Clip 1. Hallway cam. October 28th, 1:17:03 a.m. Evelyn in black leggings, black hoodie, hood up, face obscured by shadow and a medical mask. She slipped her key into our lock with the ease of muscle memory. The door opened without a creak. She'd sprayed WD-40 on the hinges 2 weeks ago during one of her surprise cleaning visits that left the apartment smelling of lemon disinfectant and judgment. She disappeared inside for 43 minutes and 12 seconds. When she emerged, she carried a bulging hefty bag, a small cardboard box, and a satisfied smirk visible even through the mask. Clip 2. Dumpster cam. October 28th, 2:03:44 a.m. Evelyn heaved the bag into the bin, then opened the cardboard box and removed something small, my pregnancy test. She tucked it into her purse, glanced around like a thief in a heist movie, and walked off. I'd gone down at 4:12 a.m. with nitrile gloves, a headlamp, and a resolve forged in sleepless nights. Inside the bag, my leather-bound journal, pages 47 to 62 ripped out, the entries detailing every time Evelyn had let herself in, moved furniture, thrown out my birth control, my grandmother's bracelet, and the pregnancy test. Positive. 2 pink lines, wrapped in a note in Evelyn's cursive. She'll trap you. I'll help you disappear. Meet me at the lake house. Bring nothing. Daniel paused the video. The frozen frame showed the test resting on torn graph paper, the word trap underlined 3 times in red ink. Maya, you're pregnant? 7 weeks, 2 days, 4 hours, I said. My hand drifted to my stomach, still flat, still secret. I took the test after our anniversary dinner at Trattoria Roma, the one where you spilled red wine on your shirt and laughed so hard you snorted. I hid it in the false bottom of the tampon box under the sink. She never checks there because ladies don't discuss such things. She must have gone through the trash while we were at work. He stared at the screen, then at me, then back at the screen. His knees buckled. He sat hard on the couch, the remote clattering to the floor. Clip 3. Audio. October 29th, 11:42:17 p.m. My voice, recorded via the nanny cam I'd hidden in the fake ficus on the bookshelf, the one Evelyn had insisted we buy because real plants are too much work for someone like you. Evelyn, on phone. Daniel's too weak to leave on his own. Always has been. But once Maya's locked up in a 72-hour hold, he'll come crawling back. I've already spoken to the family lawyer about emergency custody. Friend. Unidentified female. Custody of what? Evelyn. The grandchild, obviously. She thinks she can replace me as the center of his universe. I'll raise it. Daniel will thank me later. He always does. He's been mine since the day he was born. The recording ended with a click. Daniel's face had gone from gray to green to a shade I'd only seen on patients in the ER after a code blue. He pressed a fist to his mouth, eyes squeezed shut. The doorbell again, this time with a firm official knock that vibrated through the floor. Mrs. Harper? Officer Ramirez, NYPD, apartment 3B. We need to speak with you about a trespassing complaint and possible forgery. Daniel's head snapped up. You called the police? Yesterday afternoon, I said. After I found the forged emails in her trash, the one time she forgot to lock her rolling bin because she was rushing to her Pilates class. I filed the report, provided the hallway footage, the dumpster footage, the audio, and requested a no trespass order. They've had a patrol car circling since 11:57 p.m. last night. Through the door, Evelyn's voice shifted to honeyed concern laced with panic. Officer, there's been a terrible misunderstanding. This is my son's home. I've had a key for years. I'm simply checking on him after his wife locked him out. Ma'am, Officer Ramirez cut in, voice flat and tired. The tenant changed the locks legally and filed the order yesterday at 14:37. Your key is no longer valid. You are in violation of a court-ordered no trespass. Step away from the door and place your hands where I can see them." Daniel stood, walked to the peephole, and peered out. I saw his shoulders rise and fall with a breath that seemed to come from the soles of his feet. Then he undid the chain, turned the deadbolt, and opened the door 6 inches. Evelyn's face filled the gap, flushed, mascara smudged into raccoon rings, lipstick feathered into the fine lines around her mouth like cracks in porcelain. Behind her, 2 officers in crisp navy uniforms stood with hands resting near their belts. A 3rd officer, a woman with a tight bun and a body cam blinking red, held a tablet displaying the no trespass order. "Daniel, honey." "No." He reached into his pocket and pulled out the hospital photo, held it up so she could see her younger self glaring at his battered teenage face. "You don't get to hurt people and call it love. Not anymore. Not me. Not Maya. Not our child." Evelyn's eyes flicked to the photo, then to me standing behind Daniel, one hand curved protectively over my stomach. For the first time in 3 years, she looked small, shoulders hunched, mouth opening and closing like a goldfish yanked from its bowl. "This isn't over," she hissed, voice cracking. "You'll come crawling back. You always do." Officer Ramirez stepped forward. "Ma'am, you're being asked to leave the premises. If you return without written permission from the tenants, you will be arrested for criminal trespass in the 2nd degree, and we will add charges for forgery and harassment. Do you understand?" Evelyn's gaze darted between her son, the officers, the tablet, and the envelope still clutched in Daniel's hand. Then, with a final glare that promised retribution, she turned on her heel and marched toward the elevator. The officers followed, one murmuring into his radio. "Unit 3B, suspect is compliant, en route to lobby, requesting backup for possible scene containment." Daniel closed the door, locked it, double-checked the deadbolt, triple-checked the chain, quadruple-checked the new security bar I'd installed at 2 a.m. Then he leaned his forehead against the wood and let out a sound halfway between a laugh and a sob that had been building for 34 years. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I should have seen it. I should have believed you when you said she was going too far. When you found your birth control in the trash with the foil packets poked through when she rearranged the kitchen at 2 a.m. and told you it was for your own good. When she told me you were unstable because you didn't want her sleeping on our couch just in case you had a nightmare. I thought if I just explained." "You did," I said softly. "Today. That's enough." He turned, crossed the room in 3 strides, and pulled me into his arms. His hand found my belly, palm spread wide as if he could already feel the flutter of a heartbeat that was still too small to detect. "We're having a baby?" "We're having a family," I corrected. "Just us. No spare keys, no midnight inspections, no more rewriting our story to fit her narrative. No more wellness checks that leave us feeling violated." He laughed, startled, then genuine, the sound bubbling up like water from a spring that had been capped for decades. "What happens now?" "Now," I said, "we finish documenting everything. Then we changed the Wi-Fi password, the garage code, the spare key under the mat that I know she knows about because she found it last month when she watered the plants. And then we eat breakfast because I'm starving, and the baby apparently hates coffee on an empty stomach and has opinions about sourdough toast. He kissed my forehead, then my lips, then rested his cheek against my hair. Boundaries, he said. We set them in concrete, rebar, and unbreakable trust. We spent the next 3 hours at the kitchen table with legal pads, highlighters, a pot of fresh coffee, decaf for me, extra strong for him, and a box of Entenmann's donuts Daniel ran out to buy because stress eating is a valid coping mechanism. Daniel called his HR department to update his emergency contact, removing Evelyn, adding me as primary, and requesting a new health proxy form to be notarized by noon. I emailed the building manager, CCing the co-op board, to request a full lock audit, new fobs, a sign-in log for all visitors, and a review of the security footage from the past 6 months. We made a joint appointment with Dr. Priya Shah, a therapist who specialized in family enmeshment and coercive control. Her first availability was Thursday at 4 p.m., but she offered an emergency video session at 7 p.m. tonight. We drafted a cease and desist letter with the help of Sarah Kim, my college roommate turned civil rights attorney, who promised to file it with the court by 5 p.m. and send a copy to Evelyn's lawyer via certified mail. Daniel opened his phone, scrolled to his mother's contact, and blocked the number. Then he deleted her from his social media, his cloud storage, his fitness app, his prescription refill reminders, his everything. Each tap of the screen felt like cutting a tether that had been slowly strangling him since the day he learned to walk. By 1:30 p.m., the apartment felt different. The air was lighter, as though someone had opened windows that had been painted shut since the Reagan administration. Sunlight streamed through the blinds, striping the hardwood floor in golden bars that danced when we moved. Daniel hung the new keys on a hook by the door, 2 identical, no copies made. He labeled them D&M only in Sharpie, then added a tiny sticker of a locked heart and a post-it that read, "If you don't live here, you don't enter here." That afternoon, we walked to the park 3 blocks away. Daniel carried a paper bag with turkey sandwiches on sourdough, ginger ale, sour gummy worms, and a sleeve of Oreos because the baby has a sweet tooth and so do I. We sat on a bench under a maple tree just beginning to turn red, leaves drifting down like slow-motion confetti. A toddler chased pigeons across the grass, shrieking with joy. Daniel watched him with a soft smile. "I used to think her love was the only kind I deserved," he said quietly. Like if I set boundaries, I was abandoning her. But love shouldn't feel like drowning. It shouldn't leave bruises you hide under long sleeves. I leaned my head on his shoulder. Love should feel like breathing, like coming up for air after years underwater. He smiled, the kind that reached his eyes for the first time in months, maybe years. "We're going to be okay." We already are. That night, we cooked dinner together, pasta with roasted vegetables, garlic bread toasted under the broiler until the edges curled, and a salad Daniel insisted on tossing like they do in restaurants, with a dramatic flourish that sent cherry tomatoes flying. The kitchen smelled of olive oil, basil, and freedom. We left the dishes in the sink and danced to an old playlist in our socks, spinning until we were dizzy and laughing so hard my ribs ached. When we finally crawled into bed, Daniel fell asleep with his hand curled protectively over my stomach, thumb tracing slow, reverent circles. I lay awake a little longer, listening to the new quiet. No key turning in the lock at 2:14 a.m. No footsteps in the hallway. No whispered phone calls just outside our bedroom door. No more surprise grocery bags filled with food I was too incompetent to buy. Just the hum of the refrigerator, the soft tick of the wall clock, the gentle rhythm of Daniel's breathing, and the faint flutter in my belly that might have been the baby or might have been hope. The envelope sat empty on the dresser, its job complete. Tomorrow, we'd shred the contents in the industrial shredder at Daniel's hospital, then scatter the pieces in the East River like ashes of a life we were finally free from. Outside, the city kept moving. Sirens in the distance, a couple arguing on the street below, the low rumble of the subway beneath the pavement, a street vendor calling out, "Hot dogs! Get your hot dogs!" Inside, our apartment had become a fortress, not of locks and cameras, but of trust rebuilt brick by brick, choice by choice, breath by breath, heartbeat by heartbeat. And for the first time in 3 years, I didn't check the deadbolt before I closed my eyes. I didn't need to. The door was locked, the world was outside, and the future, our future, was finally, unshakably, ours.